What's going on, guys? It's Jake. We're back in for another YouTube video, and today we are tying up a couple loose ends before we get some parts back from powder coating so we can start to move forward with the engine assembly and engine install. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I've already done a couple things not recorded, but we have pretty much assembled our power steering lines, at least the two return and the feed. So if you guys remember seeing this high pressure line that IAG sells, we looked over this line in one of the previous videos when we were painting the alternator. And this line right here is just a 6AN PTFE. And what I've done is I have put heat shield over all of this stuff going down to the rack. And I've actually bent the steering lines so that way they have clearance and they're coming straight up with the bell housing rather than coming and making a left right here and going out around the chassis. So really happy with how this all turned out. I'll go ahead and pull the heat shield up in this one spot so you guys can see the fittings. So hopefully you guys can see that right there. So that is the fittings. Sorry if the camera's a little sideways, but yeah, that's what it's looking like. We had to use an adapter fitting to get the 6AN lines to go on, and the return line should have no more than 120 psi, whereas the high pressure line is gonna have a little bit more, around 1500 at lockout. So I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Don't hold me to it, but this is our power steering line rig so far. We're gonna be able to do more once we get the engine in the car and figure out where everything really needs to be. So that was the first thing. I also have my ethanol sensor kit set up. I've made the one line to put it in the location where I want. So I'll go ahead and just slap it on here just to show you guys kind of what's going on and where it's going to be. But you see my regulator here. This is going to be the return on the regulator going back to the fuel tank, and my fuel ethanol sensor is going to be mounted right there, and we will have clearance on everything there, so that's good. And this is going to be our return line that goes all the way back to the rear of the car, and then I just need another 45-degree fitting there to hook it up. I accidentally only ordered one that goes right there. I quickly realized that I was gonna need another one, and I went ahead and ordered another one. We just don't have it yet. So that's gonna be how our return system is set up right there. It's gonna come out of the fuel rails, make a T over to our 8AN on the side of our regulator, through the regulator, down to the 6AN, through the ethanol kit, then back to the rear of the car. And this is kind of common as far as where you see the ethanol sensor kit located in the lines. A lot of people don't really like to put them in the feed line just because it's a lot of pressure and not really needed. So we put it on the return after the regulator, and that's how that's looking. The next thing is these plugs that were on the transmission. I mentioned it a couple videos ago that we were having trouble with these plugs corroding, and the main reason behind this was because they basically used too fat of a gauge wire when they did the 6-speed swap, so that way these wires won't actually clip into the plug. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but the wire they use is probably around a 14 gauge, maybe a 12 gauge, and this wire is about a 16 gauge. Also, shout out to iWire because they sent me the whole plug assembled, and I don't have to worry about pinning the plug to get it together and making it seal properly. So now all we'll have to do is splice these wires onto these wires. And I actually took a picture before I took it apart the first time to make sure I knew which wires go to which pins. So we're gonna go ahead and get that done in this video, as well as this other transmission plug that has this wire pulled out of it. So just a couple things here that I wasn't really happy with when it came to the 6-speed swap that we got to get fixed before we put the car back together. And also I want to wrap up a couple things when it comes to this heat shield right here. I want to get that taped off, get all these new plugs in a harness just like all these are. That is something else we're going to be doing real quick. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get these soldered and get that done, and then we might honestly go inside the car, put the driver's seat back in and put the trim back in, because the last time you guys saw it, we were finishing the fuel line routing for the radium dual pump hanger, 8AN feed, 6AN return. Talking about it a little bit there on the ethanol sensor, but yeah, I need to get the driver's seat back in because hopefully we'll be starting this thing soon, and I gotta, get it ready. So let's go ahead and get these wires hooked up and we'll show you guys. So I just got done doing the soldering. I didn't actually film any time lapses because I already did that whenever I did the engine harness video, and I'll put that up in the corner. But you guys can see we got all the soldering done, got all the connectors on. So these were pre-made by iWire, like I said, so we won't have to worry about them leaking or corroding. Quality stuff from iWire, nothing but the best. Very unfortunate with the wire situation that Andrew Tech did, and you guys can see right here, hope the camera's focused, but you can see a very poor wire used, and the wire was corroded and all that stuff, so it can happen over time. But I think this wire was just not the proper grade stuff, and the gauge is a little bit too big too. But now we're gonna go ahead and plug everything in, and then I'm gonna unbolt this piece right here, pull back some of this wire, retape the harnesses, get it all looking really nice and clean so you won't see any of these wires, and then we'll plug it in for the final time and we'll move on to the next thing. So I'll show you guys when we're done. So I just finished up. I got the wire loom on them, and underneath the wire loom there is more electrical tape just for safety. And right here I have everything secured nice and tight to the firewall. Very happy with this. There's no reason that it should need to come back apart. Put a metal wire tie on this side just because the downpipe might be coming a little close there. Don't want it to melt a plastic wire tie. But that's what we did with that. One other thing I forgot to mention that I already did was put the throwout bearing and the clutch fork all back in there. So that way we can go ahead whenever we're ready to put the engine in, and that's all good and right and ready. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the driver's seat back in the car and put some of the trim back in the car, because if we look in here, there is some trim missing right there, back seat's missing, the door cards are missing, and the driver's seat obviously. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap all this stuff up, and then that'll probably conclude the video for today. But let's go ahead and get it done. All right guys, so we finished up a lot of loose ends in the engine bay. We have the power steering lines done like I showed you in the beginning of the video. The fork for the clutch here all together. Finished up all this stuff with the speed sensor wiring and the other transmission plug. Super happy with how that came out. Good all under there. Now we went ahead and put the driver's seat back in, put all the trim back in. So everything is looking really nice in here. I left the back seats down. I did put the back seat in though, and covered up where the fuel lines were routing, but I left the back seat down because when we prime the fuel system, I want to make sure that there is no leaks. So I'm really happy with the progress that we made in this video, and I honestly cannot wait till the parts get back from powder coating so I can show you guys and we can start to assemble the engine in the next couple videos. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like, hit that subscribe button. Trying to show you guys everything it takes and how to do it right. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll be back with a new video soon. Peace.